Today I've got a brand new rooftop tent set up on my 4th gen Tacoma, and it has some features that distinguishes itself from other competition out there. This might be something that you guys want to look into. What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, my name is TALONSEI and I make new videos every single week. So if you like what you see here, consider clicking subscribe because we are just scratching the surface of prime time camping season. Beautiful day here in Colorado, and I've got some new gear to show you. Now, a few months back, I mentioned that I want to kind of evolve these videos into testing out a lot of different camping setups, and you've already seen quite a few, from a slide-in camper on the Tundra to a canopy camper now on the Tundra. You've seen a ton of rooftop tents in the past. I've even slept underneath my Diamondback on a bedroll. Most recently, I actually did a hammock camping video, and we are just kind of scratching the surface when it comes to that too. There are so many ways to enjoy the outdoors and hopefully get a good night's sleep, and the one we're talking about today I think is going to be a winner because it's what I'm used to. We're talking about rooftop tents. Now, currently the market seems like it is completely flooded with rooftop tents, and there are so many different options to pick from. So for this one, I decided to keep it local here to Colorado, and I picked up this new guy right here called the Alto Mini from a company known as 4x4 Colorado. You guys know I try supporting local companies whenever I can, so it was very easy to get this tent put on. They actually have a shop down in Denver, and I went there, we got everything fitted up. I went through all of the available accessories that I could mount up to my specific setup with my Sherpa Diamondback rack on the back here, and I think I'm going to be pretty stoked with this setup. I'm going to be testing it out on about a 3-week trip. It will probably end up being more like 4 weeks. And I'm going to be putting this thing through the ringer, so stay tuned for the actual adventure videos when I'm actually out in the field testing this thing out, going through the ins and outs of like daily life using the Alto Mini. But for now, I wanted to start with kind of a brief overview, show you some of the features, how to set it up, how to break it down, some things that make the Alto Mini stand out a little bit from some of the competition on the market, and maybe a tent like this will be a good fit for your own setup. Now, the first thing I want to talk about is how this thing fits on the truck and how I actually got this thing mounted up. This is going to vary. This is very specific to my truck and my setup, but it may give you an idea of how a tent like this could work on your own vehicle. So on the back of my 4th gen TRD Pro Tacoma, I of course have a Diamondback HD cover. It has all the bells and whistles and accessories, and I went to my friends at Sherpa and they were able to make me a custom rack that ties into the bed cleats on the Diamondback cover. Now, this thing is insanely rigid. I have had absolutely zero issues with it so far, and luckily it can hold a lot of weight because that is one thing about this tent. It is much heavier than other tents that I've tested in the past, but there's kind of a reason for that. There's pros and cons to all kinds of rooftop tents. So my Diamondback rack from Sherpa is essentially very similar to their bed racks that they offer for a wide variety of trucks, and there are just 2 crossbars that go all the way across. So one thing that I actually had to do before getting this tent mounted up was install longer rails across the bottom. Again, this is kind of a me thing. For normal tent setups, you probably won't need to do that, but because I wanted to distribute the weight out as far as possible on the cover, the rails that the tent came with could have worked with some extra brackets, but I wanted it to be perfect. So we installed some longer rails on the bottom there, simply dropped 4 carriage bolts through and tightened that thing up, and that was pretty much it. Now, I do want to bring you guys in just a little bit closer here so you can get some eyes on these rails, because the rails are a little bit different than some other tents that I've seen in the past. They are, of course, an extruded aluminum, but instead of just a straight bar all the way through, they actually give you extra mounting points on each side. And you might be asking, what could that be used for? The first thing that my brain goes to is a light. I could run a light strip down there and have some light inside, kind of like above my Diamondback cover for when you're camping at night. You will see that I have plenty of extra length here because we did go with the longer bars. And a setup like this is going to allow you to mount it to pretty much anything, especially like platform racks on top of an FJ, a 4Runner, a Land Cruiser, anything like that. And then I decided to completely center this thing on the truck. There are other accessories that allow you to mount up things like an awning down the side, a shower room down the side, but because this tent is thicker, I wanted to, of course, mount it to my rack. The whole reason for me running this rack is because I wanted to keep things a little bit lower. I wanted to keep it as close to cab height as possible. And since this is a hybrid, I don't have storage under the seat, hence why I'm running a Sherpa roof rack and some Roam boxes up there. And as you can see, it's pretty damn close to the level of the boxes. It's actually a little bit less than the level of the boxes, which is nice. I think the actual fit and function of this worked out pretty perfectly. One thing that I will note is that on a 4th gen Tacoma with this rear fin here, it doesn't allow you to put it super close to the cab. It's mounted about as close as possible right now. And if we come around to the back, it's about flush with my tailgate, or maybe, I guess I would say flush with my bumper. It doesn't look out of place. It is right on the cusp of almost not fitting perfectly to my liking, but we got it on there. It was pretty easy, and it's gonna work with a lot of different applications. Now, I don't want to bore you guys to death with all of the specs and things like that. I will leave a link for this tent in the description down below, but I'm going to give you some of the main pointers that you're probably curious about. For the dimensions, as you can see, this thing is going to work perfectly even on a short bed Tacoma, which is kind of hard to find in today's market. A lot of companies are making wedge tents and they end up being a little bit too long. So unless you're running a cab height rack in the back where you can actually put it over the cab, your options are going to be a little bit limited. This one fits the bill pretty perfectly for all you short bed owners out there. With the tent closed on the vehicle, you're looking at about 65 inches long, 52 wide, and 10.5 inches thick. That thickness plays a big part in some functionality that I really like. I haven't even used yet on this tent, but we're going to cover it in this video. When the tent is open, you're looking at about a queen size mattress on the inside, 87 long, 65 wide, and you have a height of about 53 inches. Now, like I said, this thing is not lightweight. It is coming in at about 230 pounds, and it is an all aluminum design. The weight of this thing can be viewed as a con, but that extra weight adds some more features like storage. Storage is a big thing when it comes to this tent. And in my opinion, as long as you're keeping your tent below your cab height, then going from a 150 pound tent up to a 230 pound tent, it's really not going to make that much of a difference. But if you're super into wheeling and off-roading, then you may want to take the weight of a tent into consideration. Now, before we pop this thing open, we should take a look at some of the exterior design on this thing because it looks pretty simple, which I like, but there are also some options that you can pick and choose from to kind of tailor this thing to how you want to use your own rooftop tent. Starting at the very bottom, you will notice that there is that extruded aluminum track here, which you can mount things up like a complete 270 awning with zip-in walls. You can run a shower room, and basically any accessory that you can think of, you can probably find a way to mount it up to the side of the Alto Mini. Just above that, we have another track for mounting options, and then all the way at the top, we have yet another track for mounting options. And if I climb up to the top here, this is where you're going to find some options that you can actually choose when ordering this tent from 4x4 Colorado. On the side here, you will notice their logo and branding, and that is basically the footing to hold in crossbars. A lot of tents that I've tested out in the past have raised some questions. People said, hey, can I put stuff on top of that? And for the most part, you can, but you have to buy like additional accessories to make that work. These crossbars came with the tent, and you can hold quite a lot of weight on top of there. Whether it's mountain bikes, kayaks, maybe like a soft bag to keep bedding and stuff like that in, which honestly you don't need because you can keep it all inside of the tent. The mounting abilities on top of this tent are definitely a pro in my opinion. And then just underneath those crossbars, you will notice something else. When I was installing this tent, I was kind of looking through the 4x4 Colorado showroom, and I noticed that they had these awesome solar panels. This is a 290 watt solar panel, and it simply adheres to the top of the tent. They basically designed this to fit on there perfectly, and it adds pretty much no weight. And even with the crossbars mounted on there, we're talking about maybe like a 5 to 10% reduction in the actual solar capacity. So I'm getting, I would say, at least 200 watts of solar. And we wired this thing down into the cab of my truck where I have an Anchor battery sitting. It's using a standard solar connector, and that means I will have power in this truck at all times. Since the truck is hybrid, it is pretty power efficient. It's got a ton of power already from the AC outlets, outputting 2,300 watts if I need to charge that battery while I'm driving. But at a place like this, maybe I'm here to set up camp, I can take kayaks off the roof, mountain bikes off the roof, give the sun access to that solar, and I'll have power all throughout the day. The battery will be topped up for nighttime, and then in the morning when the sun hits it, we'll be gaining power again. Now on the outside here, you will notice that you only see one latch on this side of the tent, and then coming around to the cab side, one latch right there. The tent actually comes with 4 latches, but I found that it was not completely necessary to have all 4. If you're going to be packing this thing up with gear and leaving a ton of bedding inside, then you may want to have 4 latches for a little bit of security. But as of right now, there is no bedding on the inside. I do plan on putting some in there by the end of this video. And these 2 latches right here are plenty enough to hold this tent closed, and the seal is actually really nice all the way around. These latches are a very simple design. They are not locking, but you could throw a padlock through there if you wanted to, and they come very stiff, which I actually like. Over time, when you open and close this tent a lot, it will probably loosen. You can simply tighten it up with an Allen key there. But I like that they are rigid and kind of stay in place no matter how you push them, because especially on the cab side, the fitment is very tight, so I kind of keep it pretty close to the lock position, and then I can lift the tent up. Now here is one of the struts located on the outside of the tent here. This is for the awning, or I should say the window awning. And then one extra thing that I added was, of course, with the solar panel here, I have the power cable running down inside of my Sherpa rack. And then we ran it down in between the bed and the cab, and then just basically pushed it through the vent in there. So when you open and close the doors, there is a little rubber vent which allows you to basically push the air out of the truck. It's a small enough cable and it's not really hindering that flap very much, so I'm not worried about dirt getting inside of there. I then have that cable running behind the seats here across the hybrid battery system, and then it comes up and simply plugs into my battery, which I have stowed right there on my cargo system. Now for the setup, I'm going to show you guys this in real time. Super easy to stand on a tire, of course. I got Agency 6 handles here on my rack. One of the reasons why I went from 4 latches down to 2 is because I can reach both of them while standing right here on the tire. I like to position that one so that it's not going to hit the side of the truck. Pop open the other latch, and now I can simply lift up. Now you're going to find a lot of straps, a lot of bungees, which is basically for closing this thing up, like this big grab handle right here. I just kind of throw that to the side, and now I can grab the ladder, actually undo the strap holding that in place. I can walk this thing out and flip it open. Now the ladder design on this one is pretty cool because, for one, you have a ladder cover which also doubles as sort of like some storage pockets. This is going to keep dirt and crud from getting inside of the tent because obviously the ladder is touching the ground, so it's just a little bit of a protective layer there. And then when you're actually using the ladder, you can simply run this thing over to the side. And now to use the ladder, all you have to do is simply push these little latches here and get it set into a position that you're comfortable with. I think I'm going to end up moving the ladder cover over into the corner like this. Because of the tracks on the bottom, you can move them all around the tent. And then another cool feature that is differing this from other flip out tents that I've used in the past is actually the hinge system here. You will notice that if I lift the ladder up off the ground, this actually has some rigidity to it. There are some bomb-proof hinges on the inside, and supposedly this thing will hold up to about 600 pounds even without the ladder. So the ladder, I guess, is technically not mandatory like it is on some other flip-out models. The hinges can handle it, but the real question is, can your rack that you have it mounted to handle it? I only have 4 bolts in my Sherpa rack right now, so I don't plan on testing that ever. Obviously, it's gonna be a lot easier to get into the tent if you do have the ladder, but maybe if you have this up on a platform and you can like climb up your tailgate and go in through a side window, you really don't wanna carry the ladder for some reason, you could probably get away without it. Maybe there's a bear at your campsite and you don't want him climbing up here and sniffing around your tent. You can simply pull these pins and actually remove the ladder entirely. So kind of a cool option. It's not something that I think I will ever use. Now this elastic bungee here is for closing the tent up. It kind of like compresses the sides in, so I like to pull that down and put it in the track here just to keep it out of the way while I'm using the tent. And now up here for the inside of the tent, you have one U-bar here that doesn't use the little push clickers, which I like. This is simply like a little tension rod. You can actually leave these undone when you fold the tent up, so I'll simply push this out. See if I can do it one-handed. Pull it out and lock that into place. You've got one of those on each side. Now, last but not least, stored on the inside of the tent here, we have a small bag of tension rods, which are going to hold out the awnings on all of your doors and windows. If I'm being honest, I typically don't love these things because it's just one more kind of step to actually get your tent set up. But one thing that's different about these tension rods that I have not seen before is that it basically has a flat on it. So when I put that into the slot on the outside here, it actually keeps it from rotating, which is kind of nice. It's not going to like flop around. So I like to put it into the tent and then connect it up to the top here on the little fabric eyelets. One on the left side and one right here on the right side. So I would say that's about the minimum setup that you have right there. Honestly, it really doesn't take too long, and breaking it down is also very easy because I only have 2 latches on here. Now there are a million features inside of this tent that you could set it up even further depending on your style of camping. For me, quick and dirty, in and out, this is about the extent that I would go to. There are 4 more tension rods in here, which will be good for the outsides of the windows. Because of how I have my tent mounted so close to the cab of the truck, I probably won't ever put the awning out on the cab side of the truck, but I do have 2 that I can put out on this side, and I can do that simply from the inside of the tent over here. There are zippers, of course, all over this thing, which you can access from the inside and the outside. You could actually put this one up from the outside too if you're standing on your tailgate. So I will grab another tension rod, put it in place so that it cannot spin, connect that to the eyelet. That's one. And then one more, put it in so it cannot spin, connect it to that eyelet, and now we've got a little bit of shade, and this is also going to be good if it's raining. Now before we dive into the features on the inside of the tent, let's take a look at the outside here. Kind of a cool like desert tan color, which originally I thought would kind of clash with my orange on here, but I think it fits the truck pretty well. You're definitely going to blend in most environments, whether you're in the desert or up here in the Rocky Mountains. This ladder cover right here, here's a closer look of how that thing actually mounts in this track. You can push it all the way down the side if you wanted to. Keep that thing kind of away from you and the ladder. And then on the right side is a boot bag with a mesh bottom, so if it rains, it's not going to fill up with water. There's a lot of pockets in there. You could fit 2 pairs of boots for you and whoever else is sleeping in the tent. And if you decide that you do not want this, you can simply pull it out of the track in about a second. You're going to notice a ton of zippers and flaps all around the outside of the tent, which I will show you more of when we get on the inside, but ventilation is definitely not an issue when it comes to a tent like this. You actually get 360-degree views with this tiny little window on the back here. Now, when I first saw this, I was like, yeah, that's cool. You can get some air passing through here, but it's a little less gimmicky than you think. This is actually where you're going to be able to put gear inside of the tent just before you close it up. Because the flip out portion of this side of the tent here is a little bit smaller, you're going to get a huge void inside of here, which will allow you to keep sleeping bags, pillowcases, and stuff like that. And I'm actually excited to load that thing up to see how much I can actually fit in there. You can see the hinge mechanism on the outside here, which gives that top portion all of its rigidity. You can, of course, still have things mounted to the top there. I'm not sure about the weight specs off the top of my head, but I think it's like 60 when it's open and maybe 150 when it's closed. The cables that I have for my solar here are definitely pulled tight at this point, and then when I actually close this thing up, it's able to move inside of this little grommet here to keep the tension off of it. And if I was actually camping here right now, I would probably want to flip around and face my tent the other way. That way the solar panel is faced directly south at the sun. Having solar on a tent that is as easy as this, I think that is a big pro. Now let's get into some first-person view of the inside of this tent. This is absolutely massive. I've used 2 other flip-out style tents like this, and unless I use them back to back, I don't know exactly for sure. I'm not like looking at dimensions and things like that, but this definitely feels to be one of the biggest versions of a tent like this that I've ever used. Now we will start talking about the interior features right here at the entryway, not even on the inside of the tent, but kind of on the outside here on the Rainfly. They give you ventilation all the way around here, so there's actually flaps on the outside that you can open just like that, and then you have some bug mesh. I will probably end up keeping these closed for most of the time, but you may also notice a zipper on the outside here. There is an annex room that zips in all the way around the outside and then in the tracks of the floor here. And it gives you a huge outdoor living space. I'm not gonna be setting that up right now, but in the future when I'm actually out on a trip camping with this thing, I will definitely throw that in and give you guys a look of what that's gonna look like. Setup for that is definitely going to take a little bit longer because you have some poles and straps and stakes to keep that thing firmly in the ground. And that's really going to be a product that you add on to a tent like this if you're the type of person that goes out on a Friday and you're camping until Sunday in the same spot. Now the front door of this tent here, of course, this entire thing is waterproof. Do I even have to really say that? So you have a door material here and then you have a mesh material here. When you are not using them, like right now, if I'm in and out of the tent, you can simply put that underneath the mattress and it stays nice and out of the way. Now for the mattress, we have about a 2-inch piece of foam here, which feels really cushy. I'm not sure how I'm going to feel sleeping on this, but I feel like I could get a good night's sleep on here. It's a really soft kind of like microfibery kind of feeling material on the top, and then underneath here there's also a condensation pad which adds, I guess, a little bit of springiness, but mainly that's there to keep condensation down inside of the tent. They do also offer an inflatable mattress that you can put in here, which I did not opt for at this point. I'm trying to keep this thing as minimal and like as stock as possible. So the only thing that I really added that is an option would be the solar panel on the shell of this tent. But the possibilities are pretty much endless. Now climbing up just a little bit further to the inside of the tent, this is where you will find yet again some more windows and bug mesh. This right here, I can already tell you, is going to be great for dogs. My dog Camber, when she camps with us occasionally, she loves pushing her nose up against windows. She likes seeing what's out there at our campsite. She likes being a protector. So this window right here has the outside tent material to keep it waterproof, but this mesh actually stays in place. So she can push on this all she wants and it's not going to cause any issues. Speaking of that, looking at the seams in here, we're getting kind of technical now, but some cheaper made tents will have some pretty bad seams with light peeking through and like little micro holes here and there. But this tent is new, and as of right now, all of the double tape seams and everything seem really, really nice. I think if I had this thing completely closed up, it would be very dark in here, and we will find that out when I'm actually out using it. So now if I scoot further into the tent and look up, we of course have this right here, which is a huge feature for me. I love that they added this kind of like skylight here. So at night, under the stars, you're gonna get a view. You're not just stuck with tent fabric here. There is some cross ventilation there, and there is a material right here, basically like a see-through kind of plastic, so you can have this open even when it's raining. You can still get a cross ventilation through the outside Rainfly, and then if you want to close that up right here, you can zip that closed and then block all the light out. I wish more tent companies would actually do that because it's a very simple way to do things, especially for a flip-out style tent like this. Now the windows on each side here match, so let's actually see if I could put the Rainfly out this side. There's Velcro and zippers that hold that in place. Here's a pro. I could reach into this box right here and grab some gear out of there if I wanted to. Now, if I look down, right here is the mount for one of those tension bars, and obviously I'm not gonna be able to get one in there. I probably could come up with a solution to make that work by just moving that mount. I could definitely use the one over on the left side here, but then again, I will probably just keep this thing rolled all the way up. Let's actually try this out because I have not done it yet. Gonna roll the outside window up, keep it tight. There are these little pass-throughs, keep that in place. I think I'm just gonna leave this thing up pretty much full time. So we have the outside rain fly there. And if I undo these tethers at the bottom, we have the bug screen right here. And then also another layer for a window on the inside here. So we're basically like double protected from the elements. And for now, hoping the weather is going to be good, I think I'm just gonna rock the tent right like this and leave that portion up there in the top all the time. Back on the inside now, here's a close-up look at these crazy hinges. This is obviously going to hold a lot of weight. It's not just some like cheap manufactured part. There was some engineering that went into this, and this is basically what is going to be able to hold almost 600 pounds on the outside here without the ladder. Again, I'm not going to test that in this video. Maybe I will in the future, but having nice hinges on a flip out tent like this is really important because I don't have to rely so much on the ladder. If it's not completely positioned perfectly, if you're on uneven ground, this is going to take up some of the workload there. And now towards the small window side of the tent, this is basically where I'm probably going to be sleeping with my head down at this side. So I'll call this like the pillow side. Down on the pillow side here, we have some storage, basically like nightstands, one in each corner, little pocket bags there, dump your EDC items. And then up on the shell of the tent here, they have big pockets as well as sort of a tinted pocket here. So if you throw an iPad in there, or some kind of tablet to watch a movie at night, you're not going to be completely destroying your vision with a really bright screen, and you can actually use this as a touch screen through here so you can flip through your shows or whatever you need to do. Matching nightstand pocket over on the right side, and then you will notice there's actually a little bit of a tension piece in the middle here. This is also to suck the sides in when you are closing the tent up. Let's see if I can do this one-handed. You can just pop that off and throw it to the side when you're in here actually using the tent. The small window, same thing as the other windows. You have a bug screen that zips up into place like that. And then you have the blackout. Yeah, I can already tell this is going to be a very dark tent, which I love. And then just above that, an LED light strip, which you can pull off and move around the tent if you wanted to. It is a USB-A plug. I don't even have a battery with me to plug into this right now, but there are different modes for the intensity, and you can actually change the color of the light as well. Now, one cool thing about this tent, and I keep talking about the storage, I swear we're gonna get to it at some point, but because there's so much storage here, you could put a decent sized battery, probably something like 10 by 8, like a little Jackery 300, and I could leave that in the tent and close it up with all of my other gear in here, sleeping bag, pillows, and things like that, because there's so much room up here as you close this up. So I could leave this plugged in full time, have a way to charge my battery. If I wanted to get really fancy, I could run the solar into it as well. And the storage on this is, of course, one thing that I really love because I keep talking about it. Now, some more things. The roof material here is kind of like I'm not even sure what this material is. It's almost like a marine grade foam, kind of soft touch feeling. I'm sure it adds a little bit of insulation value as well. And then just over above this window here, if you're camping in cold weather, we have a diesel hose pass-through port. So you can run probably about a 3 to 4 inch diesel heater hose through there and then pump some warm air into the tent. Hopefully I won't have to use that for the next like 6 months or so because it's summer. It's gonna be summer. Look at the weather out there. It's beautiful right now, so hopefully it stays like this. Now let's talk internal space on the Alto Mini. This is gonna be my first time actually putting some of the stuff that I use up in the tent. Right here is a Mountain Hardwear 0 degree bag. I honestly don't even love sleeping with sleeping bags, so we've got some more options too. This one right here is actually coming from the people at 4x4 Colorado. This is a camping blanket with a Reiko design on it. If you guys are familiar with her artwork, she makes some really rad stuff. So there I have a huge blanket. It's like 8x8. So I could probably sleep on top of the condensation mat, mattress, sleeping bag, and then use that for some warmth. Now my pillows are actually in this box out here that I was talking about that I have access to. So if I undo these latches, check that out. I think I'll be able to keep my pillows in here, but if I can't for some reason, just reach out to my roam boxes and pull them in like that. Man, this is another cool thing that I didn't think about. I have a Roam lid organizer inside of this box here, which is a little bit tricky to get to when you're just standing down on like my C4 sliders, but if I have anything that I want to keep in the tent, but I want it to be accessible from the outside too without opening the tent, I could throw stuff in here. Right now, I don't have any kind of gear in here, but there is so much storage in this box. So that's a cool feature that I didn't even really think about. So now for inside room, I'm about 5'10", and if I put my pillows down here where I'm gonna be sleeping and stretch all the way out, I mean, even with my arms outstretched like halfway, my feet also all the way stretched out, I'm barely touching each side of this tent. Feet down here stretched out, just barely touching the tent fabric. And then up here by my head, I still have probably like a foot or two of room until I'm bumping into anything. So for a single person, totally enough room. For two people, plenty of room. Two people and a dog, I think you're gonna have enough room, but that might be the capacity. Maybe 2 adults and a child, maybe 3 adults if you want to get super comfortable together. But this is definitely gonna be like a 2.5 person or 2 and a dog person tent. This is actually my first time laying down here on this mattress, and it feels pretty dang comfortable. As of right now, I think I'm glad that I didn't upgrade to the air mattress that they offer. Could be good, I don't know for sure, but the stock mattress that it comes with feels really nice already, and I'm not even laying on top of blankets either. Oh, this makes me want to just stay here at this camp spot. I will camp in this eventually for almost a month straight, but for now, we're just checking it out. All right, now it's time for the close up. This is going to be my first time closing this with all of the stuff inside. So I'm gonna kind of walk you through the process, I guess. I'm gonna start with the small window zipped all the way open. I do need to remove the tension rods from the windows. And then this little tension bungee that you saw me undo, this is basically going to act as kind of like a guideline for where you're going to be able to store things. So as long as you keep it on the back side of that line, I think we'll be good. So for now, I'm just going to push everything far up against the window here. That way when I flip the ladder side of the tent in, it should fall right around this area and we'll be able to see how much room we actually have. 2 more tension rods on the outside. I really like that these things don't rotate because it makes putting them in and taking them out really easy. Put those back in their bag. I'm just gonna toss that down towards that side of the tent as well. So now for the flip portion, I'm gonna grab that bungee again and you'll kind of see it'll keep this rain fly in line a little bit. The wind is blowing a little bit up here. Now we'll just put tension on the side to hopefully keep the fabric coming back in. This grab handle right here is gonna be good if you have this on top of a really tall vehicle where you can't reach the top of your tent yourself. In this case, honestly, I think it kind of gets in the way a little bit. So I just kind of try to keep that to the side as I'm closing this up. I'll reach inside and release those little tension latches. Again, I don't have to suck those back down and tighten them again. I can just leave it loose like that. Toss this handle off to the side, and now we can flip the tent up. I'm gonna start with the ladder cover, basically over in front of the ladder again. Grab it from the bottom and push it up. Now before I push this all the way in, let me bring you in closer for a look at this ladder. Instead of hitting every individual latch here, there are 2 red latches on the bottom, and if I push those, that will allow me to push everything up all at once. So I'm actually gonna start by pulling this back down a little bit. I think starting from the bottom and just pushing it up like that, that's definitely the easiest way. And then once I flip that over onto itself, I'll be able to climb up the side here and strap down the ladder. The Velcro strap on the ladder, while not necessary, just keeps it from like sliding out of place. Ladder cover down there. Now just make sure that the sides are relatively pushed in. You can see that tension strap over here did a pretty good job of that. And now on a tall vehicle, you could grab this handle, or in my case, I'm just gonna grab the top and I can push it down like that. But wait, the storage. This is the part that I was most curious about. As you can see, I pushed everything way up against this window here, And now I could kind of organize stuff from this point. There is so much room in here, and with just pillows and blankets, it's gonna be no problem at all closing this up. I could even zip this if I wanted to. Make sure everything is kind of tucked in nicely there. Make sure this elastic strap is holding everything in place. So that's 2 full-size pillows, big old blanket up in a ball, 0-degree bag. I could probably fit 2 more pillows, another sleeping bag, and even a battery inside of here if I wanted to. So now for the final step. Gonna be a little bit tedious about this just because I wanna make sure that everything is fully inside. This side of the tent looks pretty good already. Having a Diamondback cover to stand on also makes this pretty easy as well. I mean, I'm barely putting any force on here and it is closing just fine. I do want to check on the back side here. Make sure I get that window tucked away. Cable for my solar. I can pull some slack out of that. Keep it nice and tight. Hardly have to do anything to keep all the fabric inside. Now, last but not least, if you did use the strap, you can tuck that inside. Little pressure to close it the rest of the way. One latch on this side, and then final latch right there. We're ready to go. So those are some of my first impressions with the 4x4 Colorado Alto Mini. Hopefully this gave you guys some good insight on what this company offers and how some of their features distinguish them against some of the other competition that are out there. I haven't even mentioned price yet, but right now this tent is coming in at $29.99, which makes it really competitive with a lot of other kind of premium tents that are offered right now. And while I'm out testing their products a little bit more, they're offering you guys $150 off a tent like this, or also the Nimbus, which is a wedge style tent. Maybe I'll get around to reviewing that in the future. But for now, I think the Alto Mini is going to work absolutely perfectly on my short bed Tacoma setup. I'm leaving on the 4-week trip with this truck and this exact setup here very soon. So stay tuned on the channel if you guys want to see me using this thing day in and day out in the wild. We're traveling from Colorado through southern Utah down to Arizona. This truck and this whole setup is actually going to be at Overland Expo, and you can find me and my truck in the Black Rhino wheel booth. So you can come check out some wheels, check out the truck, ask me questions, and get some better eyes on this tent, the Alto Mini. If you have any questions on it right now, or if there's anything that you want to see me dive into in some future videos with this setup, drop those ideas in the comments down below and I will try to get to them as soon as I can. Big thank you to 4x4 Colorado for allowing me to test out this setup. We've got a lot more coming for you guys in the future, so if you're new here, consider clicking subscribe. I make new videos every single week. As always, thank you for watching. I'll talk to you in the next one.